So there is a question by one of TechTrend readers, and the question is on the screen, as you can see. And take a look at the question and read it for yourself. What it seems from the question to me is Osama is asking about the overall attach procedure, and he has tried looking for a number of sources on the internet, and he seems not to find what happens after S criterion and how the registration procedure gets completed after S criterion. Following S criterion, what happens and how UE gets attached completely and the registration takes place completely after that. So in order to answer this question, let me start in this way. Most of the sources which you will find even in textbooks and in resources, they will show the attach procedure from the perspective of RF side. If you look the attach procedure from RF side, then you will see the messages or what happens on the RAN side between UE and eNodeB, what channels are involved and how UE gets connected or gets attached. That is good from the RF perspective. And then you do see or find some resources where it explains about the attach procedure from the RF side as well as gives a hint on the core network. And the reason for doing this is that there are so many messages and each particular procedure can be explained into a number of additional detailed steps as well. So comparing or connecting both the RAN side and core side together and the messages can be a daunting task, meaning it can increase a lot of messages, it can increase the load as well on the screen. So what I'm going to do in order to answer Osama's question over here is I'm going to explain the overall procedure, the registration procedure, in high-level steps, and each step, if you know about each step, then you can go and find more information about each step, and then you can actually connect the dots and see how the overall attach procedure takes place. To explain the overall procedure on the screen, including both the core side and RAN side, will take a lot more time and will require to explain a lot more concepts as well. For those who know the concepts, they can look up on themselves, and then for those who are interested more than that, they can are always welcome to ask additional questions. So what I'm going to do on the screen here is I'm going to draw the RAN side, I'm going to draw the core network, and for core network I'm going to draw just a cloud, and let's call it as core network, and that includes all the nodes in the core network, meaning MME is included, SDW is included over here, HSS is included over here, packet data network gateway is included over here, and any other core network nodes which are needed. So all that is included over here. So let's go and talk about the procedure, what happens in each of the step in high level. And after looking at each of the step, you can look into the details how on what steps takes place in each of the procedure and step. So the first thing what happens when UE gets powered on is, the first thing is UE is going to look for cell synchronization, meaning it will look for PSS and SSS signals, and after reading PSS and SSS signal, it will become radio, frame and slot synchronized together. So let's write it over here. The first step is cell synchronization. After cell synchronization, what's the next thing which we need to know is after UE gets cell synchronized, the second step it does is it reads its reference signals, because by reading reference signals, UE is going to have a better idea about what is the coverage of the cell looks like, meaning is the cell in good coverage or bad coverage. Now after getting cell synchronized, UE and after reading reference signals, UE has to go and read broadcast information, and broadcast information here includes, it will read MIB information to find out the bandwidth, it will read system information block 1, it will read other SIBs such as SIB2, etc. And by reading these system information blocks, UE is going to find out what is the procedure for S criteria, meaning what parameters UE needs to know in order to apply S criteria. Now remember, UE hasn't camped onto any cell, UE is just powered on. So what it needs to do, once it finds all those parameters and how S criteria needs to be applied, then after reading this, it will apply S criterion over here. And as a result of S criteria, it will decide if the cell is okay, does it fulfill the criteria that UE can camp onto the cell or not. So assuming if this cell does fulfill S criteria, let's say this cell does fulfill S criteria, then UE will camp onto this, and then after this it will perform random access procedure. Now once again I would like to elaborate. I am listing each of this procedure over here in big steps. However, each of this procedure requires more than just one line of information, meaning each one of the step or procedure is more than one line. There are specific procedures which UE will go through, and I'm assuming that you know these procedures takes place, but just for the sake of completeness I'm listing over here, so the interested viewer can always find more information on their own and then dig deeper to see what happens when you power on the phone. After random access procedure takes place, as a result of random access procedure, assuming if random access procedure is successful, then UE will become RRC connected. So let's write it over here. It becomes RRC connected. Now once UE becomes RRC connected, remember everything so far has happened only on the RAN side, and does not mean that only it requires 6 steps. The steps are more than 6, but I have given the high level information. After UE becomes RRC connected, then the next step will be, this is where UE will send the attach request to the core network. And this attach request simply means that this request will go via eNodeB, since eNodeB is the one which is responsible to convey this message to the MME on behalf of the UE. And this attach request actually contains, so let's write it over here, this is attach request, and this attach request is basically by the UE towards the core network, in this case MME, telling the MME that UE wants to get attached to the network or get registered to the network. Now MME is not going to comply with this request right away. What MME will do is MME will have to go through a little bit of background procedure here. And when I'm saying little bit of background procedure, what do I mean by this? First of all, MME has to inquire about the identity of the UE. If the UE is actually what it claims it to be, is it authentic or not? So there will be some security procedures which will take place. UE identity request, MME will require the UE identity, and in addition to UE identity, it also requires security procedures to go through. So when you will look into the actual resources or textbooks, you will see this specific stage or step number 8 is divided into number of steps which takes place, and of course it takes place more than just one line of procedure. So let's say security procedures. Assuming if network and user both are authentic, then these steps will take place. Once this security procedure and UE identity has been confirmed, then the procedure starts on behalf by the MME. What MME will do after verifying, MME will tell SCW and PGW to acquire an IP address for the user. So that initiation will take place from the core network side, and once the IP address has been acquired for the user by PGW given back to SGW and MME, then basically on the RAN side, what you will see in the messages coming from the core network, usually you see initial bearer request, initial bearer response. So let me write it over here. Here you will have bearer setup or default EPS bearer setup, which in other word means that IP address for the UE will be acquired, and you will see there are a number of messages which do get exchanged at this point, but just to give you a high level understanding at this. Once bearer setup is complete, now in order to complete the bearer setup, you will see in the actual sources that before the bearer setup gets completed up, UE also, in other words, UE capability is also inquired, meaning what UE is capable of. Based on that capability, it is decided what should be the bit rate to be specified for the UE, so on and so forth. So once that particular bit rate has been, UE capability has inquired, the actual bearer setup, meaning the control plane has been set up, and then after that UE is attached, and there will be attached complete messages being exchanged. So I will say over here, at this point UE becomes completely attached, and you will see this message being exchanged in the actual textbooks, UE attach request and complete message. So I will say UE will completely get attached. UE gets attached. So at this point, as a user, what you should experience is, if all those 9 steps which I mentioned at a high level, they get completed up, then you should see your phone should be showing, if you have powered on your phone, it should be showing LT4G signals, and it should be ready for you so that you can start requesting services from your phone, such as google.com, Facebook, Gmail, etc., whatever you want to access. So let's write it over here. At this point, you can start requesting services. So user can start requesting services. User can start requesting services at this point. So that's the overall procedure or step. Now again, because some people may misquote me on this, so let me just clarify once again. These are the high level steps, and I have broken it down into these 10 or 11 steps just so that you should have a high level understanding. Now if you go into each of the steps, you will be able to see how many messages does it take place before that specific phase is completed. For example, for random access procedure itself, it requires 4 steps or 4 messages being exchanged before random access procedure is successful. Same is the case for security procedure. Same is the case for the case of cell synchronization as well, so on and so forth. But to give idea to those readers who want to know the high level understanding before what happens next after S criteria, this particular video and this particular description should be help you guys out. In case if you have any other questions, Osama, if you have any other questions or anyone else who have any other questions, you can always give comments, and then I'll be more than happy to give you explanations on the attached procedures as a follow-up. Thank you very much.